everybody? It's Jets Central coming back with a preview video for the Monday night matchup between the Cleveland Browns at the New York Jets. Okay, now let's not sugarcoat anything. News came out this morning that Sam Darnold, the Jets starting quarterback, is going to be missing the game. Possibly could be missing week 3 and 4. That's, obviously the odds are in the Cleveland Browns' favor, especially considering that the Jets were 3-point underdogs going into the game with Darnold healthy. So now, I actually haven't checked the lines or anything like that out of Vegas, but now the odds are stacked against the Jets for sure, and we're going to have to figure out ways how to score points on this Browns defense. We're going to have to figure out ways to stop this Browns offense, this electrifying Browns offense. Even though they didn't really show much against the Tennessee Titans, I did think the Titans were going to win that game, but I got to be honest, I didn't think they were going to win by that big of a margin. I think Cleveland kind of slept on Tennessee. There was obviously a lot of hype going into the Cleveland Browns season, and obviously there still is. And it's funny, and I was actually talking about this a little bit in my previous video I just uploaded earlier this morning when I was talking about the Darnold news missing the game because of mono. It almost, interestingly enough, it feels like it's a must-win game for both organizations, right? Whichever team loses, the fan base, the tabloids, the major sports media outlets are just going to go ballistic on them. If the Browns lose, they're going to say, "Oh, Mayfield's overrated. Freddie Kitchens is in over his head. We gave up too much to go get Odell Beckham. Why do we go get Vernon? Maybe Garrett's not as good as we thought." It's going to be all these, attacks. And then as far as the Jets go, "Oh, why did you go out and get Le'Veon Bell and C.J. Mosley and Adam Gase sucks and Darnold can't stay healthy?" And it's just going to be one thing after another. So, point being is this. It feels, even though it's week 2, like it's a must-win game for both organizations. Whichever team goes down 0-2 in week 2, they're going to face a lot of scrutiny from, like I said, major sports media outlets and really the fans as well. Fans are going to be ripping whichever team loses on Twitter. And I do feel as though it might be a little bit worse if the Browns lose, because nobody was saying that the Jets are going to be making a Super Bowl push. And if the Jets win against Cleveland on primetime with a backup quarterback, I think it's just not a good look for the Cleveland Browns. But I've said this from day one, regarding Cleveland. I think the Browns, it's going to take a little bit for this Browns team with all this talent. And keep in mind, this is Freddie Kitchens' first rodeo as far as, him being a head coach. It's going to take some time for everything to start clicking, right? I feel as though maybe week 8, week 9, they'll be kind of that 4-4, 4-5, somewhere in that range, and then the winning streak will start. Then they'll rattle off 6 straight wins and propel them to the playoffs. Because this team has too much talent. Even though they did sacrifice some pieces on the offensive line, or a big piece in Zeitler, however you pronounce it, Kevin, trading him off to the Giants, which I do think that move will come back and haunt Cleveland eventually. But for the time being, I think the Browns, it's going to take a little bit of time for them to get going. But there's no denying their talent. There's no denying the quarterback play, the wide receiver talent, and really just the new additions on defense, not only through free agency, but also through the draft. They had some pretty underrated pickups in the mid to late rounds as well, which I liked. But going back to this game, what do I want to see from this Jets offense? Okay, so keeping in mind that Trevor Siemian is going to be the starting quarterback, a guy who's had wins, he's had losses in the regular season with the Denver Broncos. He's not the guy. He's not the biggest guy in the room. He's not the fastest. He's not a running quarterback. He doesn't have the biggest arm, but he is smart. That's kind of what's kept him around. He went to Northwestern. Obviously, 7th round pick out of Northwestern, chosen by the Denver Broncos, and he was able to remain in the NFL. A lot of times you see 6th, 7th round picks, undrafted guys. They're just in. They're on a practice squad. They're maybe spend a year in the league and then they're out. Simeon's actually spent a lot of time in the league. I mean, he spent quite some time with the Denver Broncos. Like I said, last year was with the Minnesota Vikings, and now he signed that 1-year deal with the Jets. So he also spent some time with Adam Gase in Denver. So I do think he has a idea of what Gase wants to do on offense. But I will say this: I don't think Simeon's best fit offensively is I think Sam Darnold's strengths and Simeon's strengths are wildly different. I think Simeon kind of needs to be under center, really lean on the run game and to establish the play action, which is, going to be one of my points that I talk about in the offense here. Because he does have really nice footwork, dropping back from the pocket, really those 7-8 step drops. When he can step up into the pocket, that's where I feel like Siemian's at his best, where he's hitting, guys on out routes, guys on crossing patterns. Fade routes, one-on-one on the outside. That's where I really feel like Siemian thrives. Not so much this shotgun, short passing, screen, slants, mesh route kind of thing that I feel like Sam Darnold really excels at. Even though week 1, Darnold struggled big time as well. But who knows? Maybe he had the mono thing kind of arising then. I don't really know all the details here. So first point I want to talk about on offense, we got to lean on the run game, like I was alluding to before. We just brought in Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell at one time was the best running back in the league. I still believe he's a top 5 running back in the league. Week 1 against the Buffalo Bills, he showed everybody why he was the Jets' best player on offense. You felt so confident when Bell had the ball. I mean, I know I speak for a lot of Jets fans here when I say this. When Darnold would swing it out to him in the flat and he would catch it and run up to the first down, it looks like he was going to be tackled one-on-one coverage, one-on-two. He'd be running up next to an outside linebacker in a corner or a safety in a corner, and he'd get the first down. That late call in the game where we handed the ball off, it was a horrendous call where he got stopped behind the line and then made the extra effort to get that first down. Those plays do not go unnoticed. I mean, he's always falling forward. Le'Veon Bell is the best player on this Jets offense. We need to force him to rock. Now, he did go or have an MRI today on his shoulder. Nothing serious. It's not like a labrum issue, a rotator cuff issue, anything like that. As far as I know, it's just a little bit of soreness, but that's to be expected because if it's, obviously first game in whatever, a year or 300 days or whatever it was. So we have to lean on the run game. And I'm not just saying, especially Le'Veon Bell, but also, get Ty Montgomery involved. See what's going on with Trent Cannon. This guy keeps on making the team, but really anytime his name is called in the regular season, he hasn't really been able to show the coaches, show the fans, show the team what his capabilities are. Obviously he's a quick, fast guy, but we don't use him. So and obviously he is the fourth string guy here. We also have Bilal Powell, but let's involve Ty Montgomery. Let's involve some of these guys with Le'Veon Bell and keep the Browns kind of, let's hopefully try to bully these guys up front like the Tennessee Titans did. Granted, the Titans' offensive line is much better than the Jets, but go back and watch the Week 1 matchup against Browns Titans. Excellent game by the Titans' offensive line. Mind you, they didn't even play with Taylor Lewan, one of the best left tackles in the league. So we need to rely on the run game. Not only is that kind of the strength of the offense right now, that's where a lot of the depth and skill lies, but we're also taking a lot of pressure off of Trevor Siemian early on in the game. If we could get the run game going, if we're averaging 4 or 5 yards a carry, that'd be great because we're setting up Siemian in easy 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3 situations. So number 2, kind of branching off my first point, by establishing the run game, now all of a sudden you can establish the play action game, right? Where I feel like now you can start to open it up to Crowder across the middle, on those 3rd and 3s. Now you can really start to stretch the field a little bit with the play action. So really lean on the run game, establish the play action game early. Let Trevor Siemian work under center. I know everybody's kind of being, afraid or it's almost a taboo thing in today's game to be under center. Everybody wants to go from the shotgun because that's what Breeze does. That's what Mahomes does. That's what Aaron Rodgers was doing, before Matt LaFleur, obviously, Trubisky, all these different guys, Deshaun Watson, all of these guys, Kyler Murray are in the shotgun. Matt Stafford in the shotgun pretty much all the time. And I think people are starting to get a little scared to be under center. But that, like I said before, that's where I feel like Siemian is actually at his best. So rely on the run game, establish the play action game. Because the Titans they had a lot of success. Say what you want about Tennessee, they're a boring team. They're not the Chiefs, Chargers, Steelers, Patriots, Ravens, one of these powerhouse AFC teams. I still like the Titans. I actually predicted them to win that division, win the AFC South. They went into Cleveland and bullied them. Just saying. Number 3, well, I guess I'm not even going to bring up number 3 because it's just kind of more more so with the run game. So let's just switch gears. Let's talk about the defense, because this is where I felt like, even though the numbers against the Buffalo Bills for the Jets defense looked pretty good, I still felt as though we had major struggles, especially on the defensive backside. I mean, Marcus May, dropped a pick. I thought we missed countless opportunities on the defense side of the ball, even though we had multiple turnovers. I believe we had 4 turnovers against the Buffalo Bills, even though one of them was kind of, woo-woo-y because it's on 4th down, he fumbled the snap, so either way, we're going to get the football anyway. So really 3-4 turnovers, however you want to call it. We still did. I felt like Trumaine Johnson struggled big time. Dale Roberts struggled big time. Marcus May, like I said, he had that interception just blatantly dropped. That was a tough one to swallow. Obviously, Mosley got banged up. Quinnen Williams got banged up. Avery Williamson isn't even playing. So this defense, we got to establish some defensive line pressure, right? What did the Titans do well against the Browns? Why was Mayfield throwing all these picks? Because the defensive line for the Tennessee Titans were getting home. They were seeping through the cracks of the offensive line for the Cleveland Browns, especially through the interior, and they were showing Mayfield pressure up in his face early. It's different when you have the pressure from the outside, because the quarterbacks, they can feel that pressure. Some of them can, some of them can't. But you don't really know if that edge defender, that left tackle, or that left end is jumping the gun, if he's just dominating your left tackle, and especially if the quarterback is facing the other way, he doesn't really know that. But if you are getting pressure early, even though that's not what the quarterback is focused on, like a guy of Baker Mayfield's caliber is keeping his eyes downfield, subconsciously he's picking up his center, his guards are struggling. Quinnen Williams, Leo Williams, Steve McClendon, we need these guys to get home. We need these guys to have success, because all of a sudden it starts to click in the quarterback's mind. Okay, and it's crazy. It's a weird phenomenon. It's almost like an unconscious effect, because they're looking at their wide receivers, breaking through their routes, or going through their progressions downfield. They're not looking at their linemen, but they can see out of their peripheral vision that these guys are getting beat, and that's when the internal clock starts to speed up. That's why Mayfield's throwing these picks. And some of them you're thinking like, oh, that was a pretty clean pocket. What happened there? It's the internal pressure. It's just the subconscious kind of picking up these these cues throughout the game that's making Mayfield kind of throw the ball a little early or do this and that. So we have to get home on the defensive line. Again, I feel like the Browns' offensive line, that's probably their Achilles heel on offense. Not saying it's a horrendous offensive line by any means, but it's definitely not a top 10, top 15 line. It just simply isn't. So for the defensive line, we got to establish pressure up in Mayfield's face early on in the game, because I think the Browns are going to come out firing. I think the Browns are going to try to get out to an early lead. I think they're going to try to force the Jets to play catch up and put Siemian in a position to where he has to throw the ball 35 to 40 times a game. And we just saw Adam Gase, for whatever reason, go run the opposite way from the run game last week, which was very discouraging, because for the majority of that game, not only were we winning the game, but when we were starting to fall behind in the game, once the Bills got the lead, we were in complete panic mode, acting like we were down by 20 points, throwing it. We were down by one possession, let alone one single point. All we have to do is get in a field goal range, and we have an opportunity to take back the lead. But Adam Gase is throwing the ball, acting like we're down by 20. I don't understand that. If we get down early in this game 17-0, it's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day. So we have to establish the run game, keep the defense on the field. When the defense is on the field, we have to get pressure in Mayfield's face early, because Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, the weapons that the Cleveland Browns possess, going up against the injury and depleted New York Jets cornerback room, it's not a good thing to think about. All right, so I'll leave it there. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and go Jets.